Welcome to Lead Different.
What if the biggest breakthrough in business starts with hearing no more often? Success isn't built overnight, and it's rarely built without rejection. Today on the Lead Different podcast, we are joined by entrepreneur, founder, and growth strategist, Jimmy Coleman. Welcome to the Lead Different podcast. In this powerful conversation, Jimmy shares hard-earned lessons on business, faith, resilience, and what it really takes to grow something meaningful. From building systems that scale and leveraging AI for growth, to learning how rejection can become one of your greatest teachers, Jimmy challenges conventional thinking about success. But this conversation goes deeper than business. We explore faith, fatherhood, purpose-driven leadership, and why the strongest foundations are built on trust, conviction, and showing up consistently, even when the answer is no. If you're building a business, navigating uncertainty, or striving to lead with greater purpose, this episode is for you. Subscribe and join us as we discover what it means to lead different with Jimmy Coleman. Let's dive in.
Why not leadership? Why not lead different?
Welcome to Lead Different, the podcast that redefines leadership and challenges the status quo. Hosted by Daniel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Why Not Leadership. This show is your compass to becoming a better leader through the power of self-awareness. Good leaders foster teams that are engaged, empowered, and energized. Join us on this transformative journey as we equip you with the tools and insights to lead different. Get ready to challenge the ordinary and embrace self-aware leadership. This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.
Hello and welcome to the show, Jimmy Coleman. So great to have you on. I've been looking forward to talking to you since I met you. I think we met through a Catholic networking group, and then we got a chance to get on a phone call, and I was so impressed with you and the work that you've done and the work that you continue to do that I said, I want to share this guy with my network at the Lead Different podcast for all the Why Not leaders in my network. So welcome to the show, Jimmy.
Fired up to be here. I know there's a long waiting list, so it's been too long since we last caught up.
I'm looking forward to, this is the great thing. I like to bring guests on that I love the work that they do. I love that you have credibility. You've done some things already. And here's the biggest endorsement I like bringing people on the show that I want to hire myself. I had a marketing expert on the other day, and I'm like, I just can't wait to have her start working on my website. And then when I look at what you're doing in lead generation and the company that you started, I'm like, those are things that I could use some help with. And so I said, if he can help me, I'm sure he can help others. So that's why you're on, Jimmy Coleman. That's you've earned your bona fides. You do a great job. You have a great presence on LinkedIn and on social media. I really appreciate that. And you've got some great stories you've shared on your social media and with your clients. Even in the pre-show, you were sharing some great success stories. So what's exciting right now, other than I know you've got a pending new human in the family coming soon?
That is very exciting. Yeah, I mean, we have we have my oldest is 4, and this will be number 4, right? So that's going to be interesting. Every time people sometimes will ask questions about like which one was the hardest, and 0 to 1. I'm not sure about you, Dan, but like 0 to 1 was the hardest for me. Like actually getting into dad mode was a difficult adjustment. And really having to restructure the things I put my worth into, my value into, and it was definitely literally a call to Jesus moment in my life. And now I'm in dad mode, right? So I just know that I pretty much say no to everyone when they want to hang out. That's just like my thing now. And sometimes not even because I have to. I really love being with my family. And so that's a ton of fun. But yeah, we do have number 4 come in the pipeline here in the next 5 or 6 weeks. Cassius is my oldest. He's 4. Lucius is 3. And then we got Gemma, who's about 1.5, and we don't know whether this is a boy or girl or not. So we'll have a big moment when this baby comes. Other than that, Ex Cathedra has been a ton of fun. It's really an amazing gift to have a gift that's so useful for people, lead generation, go-to-market strategy, but to be able to use those gifts that were given to me by God to help Catholic owned businesses or Catholic organizations is just like really in my zone of just excitement and a zone of genius. So yeah, that's what I've been working on a lot recently.
No, that's I appreciate that. That's really exciting. You know, sometimes you look at somebody's LinkedIn profile and maybe it doesn't match the person you meet, but your LinkedIn profile says dropping bombs on mammon and making babies. And you literally have the picture of 3 babies and 1 on the way on there. And that's really what you're doing. It's it's really cool to hear also how much you appreciate and enjoy being with your family. It's not just about making babies and then leaving them home with mom and then going off to the world and then, you know, showing up on the weekends. Maybe it's being involved and being there the whole time. That's a hard thing for a lot of young men to do. Let's dig into that one a little bit. How do you find the, first of all, I think you said you enjoy being with your family. But there's a lot of people that might enjoy being with their family and they're not spending the time. They're saying yes to the invitation to go out for a beer, or yes to go play golf, or go to an event. How have you found the discipline and the wherewithal to say, hey, you know what? I this is family time. This is dad time. I've got to be there.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes it easy to say yes to my family over other things now is just I've said this on in other places, but like my definition of success has changed a lot from before I had children. It was all wrapped up into making the most amount of money possible, and so all my actions that flowed over from that. And so if it meant going out and doing a thing with a business opportunity or whatever, then I would say yes to that. And by the way, you have a responsibility to your family to provide. So it's not like I say no to literally everything, but where would I rather be? It's pretty much with my family 100% of the time, and that is genuine. I do know, I've heard something I'm sure you heard when you were in the beginning stages of raising your kids and they're like toddlers and things and babies, is the passerby comment every time is, it goes by fast. It goes by fast. Like you hear that over and over and over again. And some people even tell you in more detail. Like I remember one guy in particular telling me this when Morgan was pregnant for the first time, that, hey, you know, you're going to have those nights where the baby's waking up in the middle of the night and you're trying to get it to go back to sleep, and like, just hold on to those moments. So I appreciate the like 1,000+ warnings that I've gotten from everyone that has really helped me enjoy this time quite a bit. And again, it's stressful. It's just extreme. It's extremely beautiful and extremely stressful sometimes. But like my true happy place is my wife still works sometimes on Saturdays. She's a nurse. And so just to keep her licensed, she'll just do like the bare minimum number of hours that she's required to do every 6 weeks. It's like 48 hours or something like that. And that means I get a lot of Saturdays by myself with our 3 little ones. And like the moment, if I think of like the time I'm like peak happiness is like, I imagine my kids in their stroller, not their stroller. We have this giant wagon now that I just plop them all into. And we're going on a hike and I'm pushing them through the woods, and I'm just like seeing them point at squirrels and flowers and whatever else. And like that is just like the happiest moment I could possibly think of in my life right now. And it's just genuine. I don't know. There's some people that maybe have a hard time appreciating that moment because perhaps because they're feeling the pressures of the world on their shoulders, which is usually I find that creeping up in my head sometimes, and that's usually a product of me just not spending enough time in prayer. Prayer points you towards the things that are eternal and helps your mind stay in this and value the things that are more eternal. Whereas if you don't spend enough time in prayer, you start feeling all of the short-term pressures creeping in and have a hard time just seeing the beauty that's right in front of you, you know?
And that's a really beautiful picture you painted of, like you said, the kids pointing at squirrels, being in awe of of discovering new things, right? And you get to be there for that. There's a great story I heard. It's called The Last Time, or maybe it was a poem. There's a last time your kids do everything, right? Right now, all of yours are at the age where they run to you and you can grab them and pick them up. There's going to be a time when you won't, right? And you won't remember the last time you were able to do that because it flies by, as everybody has warned you. Before you know it, they're 15, and if they run at you and you try to catch them, they're going to knock you over, right? But right now, you can actually grab them, pick them up, throw them on your shoulders. Easy. Right. There's going to be a time when you won't be able to do that. And there's all those things. There's going to be a last time when they ask you to, hey, will you read to me? Because right now you're probably doing a lot of that. And there's going to be a time when they don't do it anymore. And it just goes by. And next thing you know, it's just not happening anymore. So it's great that you're spending that quality time, and that you get, every few weeks you get a little one-on-three time, I guess, with the three oldest. Love the names, Cassius, Lucius, and Gemma. My sister's a Gemma. Do you spell that with two M's?
We do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys?
She spells it with one because it's the Spanish word for gem. And when my parents were dating, my dad would serenade my mom with a Spanish song. And the lyrics were, Eres la gema que Dios convirtiera en mujer. And it means you are the gem of God that God converted into a woman. And so that's where my sister's name came from. My name's Daniel. It did come from a love song that my dad said to him. But that's really cool. You rarely see that name. Tell me this, though. You mentioned there's a responsibility, and all of us have to deal with that responsibility. We have a responsibility to provide, but we also have a responsibility to be there for our families. You've done a great job with Lead Baller. That's a company I think you exited, and now you've got this new venture that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about the background. How did you start with Lead Baller? How did you go from everything you did was towards making as much money as you could to the Catholic husband and dad that you are today? And I know that's probably a long story, but walk us through some of the key decisions that you had to make to exiting the business and to starting the new business and the new focus that you have. And you mentioned prayer already, so I'm sure that had to do a little bit with it, but let's talk about that for those Catholic leaders that are listening right now, because those are decisions we all have to make. And I think if we make them from the right place, they're better decisions. And to hear someone who's actually done it is I think really helpful.
Sure. Yeah. So I started Lead Baller. I was working at a company and doing a pretty good job of helping them grow. And it was a startup, and my own personal brand maybe started to develop from that enough to where people started having me on as like a panelist on certain things or speaking on stage at places about lead generation, go-to-market strategy. And people afterwards, I would hear it enough times that people would say that, hey, like that, what you just said, the information you just gave us is way better than what we just hired some expert to give us. And you just gave it to us for free. That was really cool. And so that I heard that enough times to decide to start consulting companies on this kind of stuff. And eventually, after 1 year of doing it more on a consulting basis, I productized my intellectual property and created a thing called Lead Baller out of that, which was just a way of explaining a strategy of engaging with people a few times before you shot them a cold message, a cold DM. And we would organize it on a baseball field. So that's why it was called Lead Baller. I have a picture I just found from one of my old notebooks of me first like sketching out the baseball field. It's kind of cool. And that was really neat. I mean, one of our first clients of that was TikTok, and we had other big companies that we work with, and also a lot of like solo entrepreneurs and stuff. And And pretty much I ran that company for 6 years. So in the middle of that, somewhere in the mix, about 4 years ago from now, um, my son was born, and you get these graces bestowed upon you, that sometimes feel uncomfortable. It's like, hey, you're responsible now for providing for this family. You're now responsible for being the spiritual leader of this family. And I would also say that being a parent is where marriage starts to feel very real all of a sudden. There's a saying that you can't, pressure doesn't create leaks, it exposes them. And now there's real pressure, right? And so I remember trying to figure out what the right thing to do is constantly and not having answers, and just recognizing there needs to be some third party thing. It's not my opinion. It's not my wife's opinion. It's the truth. And who am I going to give that to? And I realized that I was really not, I was not, all into my Christian faith at the time. It was very lukewarm. It was just like Christianity whenever it's convenient, and then when it's not, just turn it off. Um, and I went through this journey of like, does God even exist? Okay, I actually do believe God exists, but did the resurrection, did that really happen? Okay, wow, yeah, I'm willing to die to say that it did. And then from there, okay, what flavor of Christianity? And it was the Eucharist that brought me to Catholicism. So all that being said, in the middle of running this secular company, with a team of people that came into the business, with a guy that was leading it that was very lukewarm, I guess, all of a sudden had this like, this almost obsessed Catholic, specifically running the company. And so that was kind of interesting. And all of our, as a secular lead generation company, so lead generation isn't something that you usually find any faith references made to at all. It's not like, I don't know, like you're driving down the road, you see a lot of trucking companies happen to be Christian owned because there's Bible verses on them. Like, that's just not a thing in lead generation at all. But, half of our website was the Shroud of Turin with a note next to it that, from me, that explained like, hey, this is who Jesus is and whatever else. And if you want to talk to me about it, here's my email.
Talk to me about it. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, about the note. Well, I just explained to people in the note that it's a very one paragraph version of my own reversion story, of my own faith story of like, hey, yeah, there's a guy that, God exists. Here's a quick case for that. The resurrection happened. People that, were willing to kill Christians, all of a sudden witness a resurrection, and they're not willing to die to say that it's the truth. And then I don't think I teed off Catholicism too much in that little note, but I did offer this Shroud of Turin podcast that would probably lead people there. But I mean, in every job description we had, we would say, hey, here's the job. Also, the leadership of the company is Catholic, and that's how we make all of our decisions. And we would love to see you in heaven. And we just know that that's either really exciting to some people or a deal breaker for others. So just putting it out there. And what's interesting, we had Muslim people working in the company, Jewish people working in the company, Jehovah's Witness, some other Protestant stuff. Some people are just indifferent, whatever, but they all knew what we were all about, and knew how I made decisions and things. And actually a lot of them like came to us, even the Muslim guy in particular, like something that I think that brought him to becoming Muslim is that he just appreciated the boldness of the Muslim faith. And so he was fired up to find a bold Christian. Anyways, that was kind of fun. But anyway, so a really long way of answering your question, just kind of taking you through the journey there. But we eventually I wanted to exit that company, more of a product of just recognizing that running a lead generation agency, again, in a very like 2020 model, like this before AI is much of a thing, is not a business model I really got too excited about. It wasn't very aligned with my area of my zone of genius, which is there's just a lot of moving parts in the fulfillment of that. And so I decided I was just going to start a new thing basically, and was going to talk to companies who were interested in buying Lead Baller in the past. And so that was a whole story. I had some very stressful encounters I'm happy to go through in the process of exiting. But what that resulted in is me partnering up with Daniel to
Yeah.
being one of the founding members of Arimathea Investing as the chief growth officer. And pretty much for a year, only focusing on that, still a partner in the company, still running that, still literally as we're speaking here, seeing leads come in to my email from things that we're setting up at Arimathea, which is I love it. But in the meantime, I'm also consulting companies on Catholic owned companies on their own go-to-market strategies. And
Okay.
just from what's been cool about Arimathea is it's pulled me into this like Catholic business world and talking to Catholic institutions and things. And I'm realizing, man, these guys are really bad at the thing that God made me really interested in. And so, I've been able to, help a few friends out in the Catholic space through that.
Love that. And thank you for walking us through all of that. So why exit Lead Baller instead of renaming it Ex Cathedra? Right? Why go through all of that? But I can imagine it's a business decision. You probably had some great offers out there, and that helped you fund your next venture. So you're now a partner at Arimathea Investors, and you're running Ex Cathedra. And I love the front page of Ex Cathedra says it's grow or die. And that's so true for any business, right? You've got to grow. You've got to get those leads. One of the frustrations that solopreneurs, and I have a team, but for the most part, the sales come down to the person, the face of the company, right? And you're always on I had a Larry Long Jr. was on, and he talked about there's a three-legged stool, right? There's your prospecting. There's the other part where you're actually presenting, and then there's preparing to present. When you're a consultant or a speaker or a coach like myself, sometimes you get a lot of business, which is good, but you're busy preparing to present and presenting that your prospecting goes away. So how do you keep that going while you're preparing to present? Because you want to deliver good content. So you want to make sure you're getting ready and doing the research and presenting really well so that people refer you. But then next thing you know, you come back from a month where you gave 3 or 4 keynotes, you did a bunch of workshops, and now the next month you've got nothing booked, right? So it's balancing that. And so I can see where what you do, either at Lead Baller or Ex Cathedra, helps people grow and create systems. So tell us a little bit about your business model. What is it that you help business owners do that they're not doing right now? What's the one thing they're missing that helps them keep that three-legged stool from becoming a two-legged stool that falls over?
Sure. Yeah, you asked for one thing, but I do find that there's a lot of things that people could do, but I'll just give like 3 simple things that I notice are missing that you'd think are like every business must be doing. And one of them that I might focus on is, and I think your question's more focused on, is just making a list of people that you'd like to do business with, and every day asking a certain number of them to do business with you. Sounds crazy, I know, but most people aren't doing that. And so like that's one major area of opportunity I see businesses have. The other one is taking the people that are happy to work with you, that are your current clients or your past clients, and asking them if they know people that might enjoy working with you, asking for referrals. And then the third one is taking what is usually 97% of the people that you asked to do business with you at some point that ended up not doing business with you, whether they'd like to do it now, like just following up with them, right? And but like focusing on that first one, you mentioned that like it's a time budgeting thing sometimes, and the reality is it's not usually a time thing. It's more of it's not even a priority thing. It's like no one wants to do that. No one wants to hear no 8 times to hear yes twice. And so ideally what you can do is kind of automate the process, especially the part of the process that you're least likely to do yourself. And that way, one, it's happening regardless of whether you're feeling disciplined or not that day, and whether you think that you have time to do it or not that day. It's just happening in the background. I'll sometimes find companies that are doing this, but they're spending hours and hours doing it. And so we'll develop a process for them to automate the process of them asking people to do business with them, so that they can spend those few hours on things that are worth more money, or maybe go after, instead of their top 10,000 prospects, spend more time in their top 10 or top 100, which are bigger opportunities. So anyways, that's a huge area of opportunity. Like, we could get into some AI, this and that tricks up your sleeve or whatever, but those are the core things that, yeah, and business is only going to get more and more competitive in the age of AI. So the time to get with the program and start asking people to do business with you is now. It's 30 years ago, really, but it's now. You got to at least be doing some of these fundamental things,
Yeah. So I love that. Liz Wendling, who I work with a lot, she talks about so many people want to get sales, but they don't want to do the hard work of sales. And like you said, that is having those conversations with the people that are going to say no. It's okay to hear no 8 times to get to the 2 yeses, and it might be 88 times to get to 12 yeses, right? The numbers are gonna vary, but so many people put off the hard work, and they think they're going to spend time building the perfect script, and there's no perfect script, right? As you said, those are 3 basics. I love the 3 basic things you said. Look, make a list of people you want to do business with, and then every day ask a few of them, hey, would you like to do business with me? But it's not just it's not just calling, hey, Jimmy Coleman, I'm Dan Dominguez, would you like to do business with me? There's a process to building a relationship, building a connection, before you just throw up and show up and throw up, as they like to say. Show up and throw up. Here's what I do. You need this, right? Can I help you do that? Versus getting to know someone. What are some of the mistakes people make? Because yes, there is. So I'm going to take those one at a time and just kind of hear from you as an expert in this, so that people can learn a little bit. What's one thing you can do so you're more likely to get a yes from that conversation? So, there's X company, new, let's say your target is $1 to $10 million company, new $10 million company that just came on your radar. They're Catholic. They would like that you could probably help them. What's a mistake people make, and what can they do to build a relationship so when you do ask them to do business with you, it's more natural?
Yeah, well, and I'll answer that question and also pull up something you said before that, which is like, people try coming up with the perfect script, and it's just the wrong attitude to have with prospecting. Like, one of the collateral benefits of prospecting is the learning your ICP and what they care about. It's not hypothetical, the feedback that you get, because you have a list of 1,000 people that you want to do business with. You start asking them to do business with you, and you'll hear people tell you no in some cases, and then they'll usually explain why. No, I already have one of these. No, whatever else. Like, they'll just give you a few reasons. Usually, timing is off, whatever. And then what you can do is you can go back and adjust your messaging so that it handles that objection before it comes up. Or if you need to, adjust your targeting, because maybe the feedback you're getting is letting you know that the people that you're targeting are not the right people. But you can't do that very well when it's all hypothetical. Like, I'm not a fan of working too much on the brand identity of a product. Let's say you just started a thing. Start asking people to do business with you, so that when it comes time to building the foundation of who your brand is, who your target market is, and whatever else, it's coming from actually testing it in the market versus trying to course correct at 0 miles per hour. That's what a lot of people are trying to do. They're trying to course correct. They're trying to get it perfect, because again, it's not out of trying to be savvy and making the right marketing decision. It's out of fear of failing, fear of hearing no, and feel like uncomfortable. People are just dodging that, and that's where a lot of those decisions are coming from. So if people can readjust their frame and say, hey, all right, cool, we are trying to build a money machine here, all right, and so we're trying to build this thing where we eventually can figure out that a certain number of controllable actions that we do on the front end can equal this amount of money on the back end. We just pretty much know it's going to happen that way every time. Actually, I built a resource somewhere. I'm going to literally look it up while I got you here, just to make sure I'm setting people to the right place. Xcathedra.com/ is it calculator or I'll try to find it here, but I have a resource where people can basically take whatever their goal is. Let's say it's make an extra $1 million this year, and it's xcathedra.com /reverse, and they can basically figure out, okay, based on this revenue target that I have and what the industry averages are, on like conversion rates and things, here's the number of actions I need to do on the front end in order to get that number on the back end. And it basically takes the industry averages on LinkedIn prospecting, email prospecting, cold calling, door knocking, whatever. So that way it like basically just puts you feel more in the driver's seat of your destiny and where you're trying to go. But yeah, a lot of people are just not taking enough action in general. They try doing something 10 times and think that was a lot of times, and it's not a lot of times to try something, to try a certain type of messaging, whatever else. So I don't know. I hate to keep it so basic. I hate it when the answer is like simple but not easy, because it's it's like, yeah.
The answers usually are simple but not easy. And the 10 commandments it's just 10 commandments, right? But it's not easy to follow all of them. I love that I pulled that up, and we'll definitely put that in the show notes. So it's xcathedra.com / reverse. And so if you can unlock the calculator, there's obviously information that you'll need to put in there. But I love it because it really breaks it down. So, hey, so what is it that you're looking to do? What is it going to take for you to get to that number? And what are the actions that you must, how many connections, how many meetings, how many no's do you have to get before you get to a yes? I also like the approach that you take, Jimmy, when you talk about the fact that, and we've done that at Why Not Leadership. Sometimes we'll build it as we go, because you don't want to course correct at 0 miles an hour. I'd rather course correct at 50, 100 miles an hour, because we got hired to do this. And now we've got to figure out, okay, how do we build what exactly it is that you're looking for? Because in those prospecting conversations, people are telling you, no, you know what? We don't need that. So then you might realize, hey, maybe what I'm trying to sell is not what the market needs, but the people will tell you what it is that they need. And so maybe you can course correct. And if that's in your wheelhouse, you can correct to that. The other part is there's so much value in iteration, right? I'm sure you've seen that countless times. The more times you do it, the better you get at it, to the point where, you don't need a script. You've just had those conversations enough that you understand the right questions to ask to see whether the client is a fit for you. Oftentimes we're trying to make sure we're a fit for the client. The better question, I think, is the client a fit for you? Are you going to be able to, if you put all your effort into that client, are you going to be able to make a difference for them, a positive impact for their business? And that's usually the most important thing that you can do in order to be valuable to that client, so that you provide value to them and then they become a referral source, which gets to that next question, is asking for referrals. So many people have, if you've done this, like we've done at Why Not Leadership for 2 years, we're in our 3rd year. We've worked with enough clients. We should be able to call them and say, hey, who do you know that will benefit from what we did for you? What's another great way to take advantage of those people that you've served well? Maybe tell us if there's an automated way to do that, so that we're getting those leads from those people.
Yeah, sure. Well, one best practice is actually it's maybe counterintuitive, but to ask earlier on, like within the first 30 days. Um, what can oftentimes happen is, even if it's a long-term relationship, and maybe we've had this happen at Lead Baller in the past, where we make someone, like, they could pay us till the day that they die and still have an amazing ROI from what they got from us in the first 3 months or something. But
Mhm.
but maybe this customer service person, just took longer than they should have to respond to the email, whatever else. It just starts to feel a little bit less new and exciting, maybe, right? And so, yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with doing it while it's new and exciting. I also encourage people to try to make it a little bit easier on people to make that introduction. So I actually have this process I built out called client cloning, where it basically you actually can schedule like a separate meeting with whoever your cheerleader is at your key accounts, and say, hey, you can just you try to sound really really humble in the process, and you just say, hey, I'm mapping out my 2026 goals right now, and I'm looking at it. You know what? I think we can do it. Just go out finding new people to work with. But I was actually thinking, like, man, if I could only just work with people like fill in the blank person all day long, that would be the best. Like, if I could clone you, Susie, I would totally do that. And I have a crazy idea. Like, it'd be a huge favor. But what do you think about setting up like 30, 45 minutes with me, and just like having me ask you a few thought jogging questions to help think about who you might know that I could work with this year to help us hit this goal that we have? Is that a horrible idea? Is that taken too far? Whatever. They pretty much say yes every time because of the way you're asking and who you're asking. And then you have that meeting with them, and after you do all the rapport and everything, you once again, you just say, once again, this is a huge favor. Thank you so much for taking this time. You don't realize how much it means to me. I'm honored, and just lather on the gratitude. And then you say, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just ask you a few questions, and as names pop up in your mind, don't write them down or anything. I'll write them down on my side. But just say the names of these people out loud, and I'll write them down, and we'll talk about what happens from there. So first question is always, if you're in my shoes, you have this goal that I have, who are the first 5 people that you're reaching out to? That's always the first question. And then you usually have 5 or 10 other questions that you can ask the person. You take time between questions to help them think of who they might know that you could end up working with. And that derives from the ICP that you put together. And then from there, you could even go on LinkedIn and find people that they're connected to and say, hey, Saul, you're connected to this person. Saul, you're connected to this person. Saul, you're connected to this person. Do you know them well enough to make an introduction? Or if I were to reach out to them and drop your name and just mention that you encouraged us to get together, that you'd be okay with that. And what's crazy is, you do this the right way, you could probably get like 10 introductions out of this. I just helped someone the other day get like 20 introductions. Now what helped is, instead of like having even a script, that's one thing I was going to recommend. You could have a script of like a simple 1 to 3 sentence way that they could explain who you are and what you do to the people.
Right.
You just get permission from the person to reach out to these people and mention their name in the process. And that way there's no homework for the person that you're asking. And
Right.
it puts the ball in your court to go prospect these warm leads. And this is actually something I did for a client who I was training them on this process, because they went from asking me to teach them how to build a machine on that like automatically goes out and generates leads for them for prospecting. And like the day before, they said, hey, actually, we don't know how we're going to make payroll at the end of the month. And so I said, okay, well, referrals close at the highest percentage, and they close the fastest, the shortest sales cycle. So let's focus on that first, and let's do this client cloning process. And that's what we did for them. So anyways, that's just a couple ideas I might have for people that have a decent size client list. Oh, and real quick too, like when it comes to who you're asking, think about who you enjoy working with the most, who you make the most amount of money from, and who you get the best results for. And within that triple Venn diagram, whatever that would be called, whoever's at the center of that is who you want to ask, because they're most likely to know, people that are like them.
Can you repeat those three again? So who do you enjoy working with the most? Who do you make the
Yeah,
most money?
And who do you get the best results for? Is the other one. Yeah, because then it makes it so much easier when you're focusing on people that you've gotten the best results for. Like, hey, I just got this ridiculous result for these people over here. No idea if I can do the same thing for you, but is it worth the conversation? It's a very easy conversion from there.
And I like the idea of taking the work away from the referral source. You're saying, hey, how about if I is it okay if I use your name in my introductory email? Because when people see that, hey, Jimmy Coleman asked me, thought that you and I should talk about what I did for him. And if they trust Jimmy Coleman, and this is part of that, I'm sure part of that conversation, that client cloning conversation, this is somebody that they think highly of, they think they could use your help, and they have a relationship with. So dropping the name is going to mean a lot, right? And I love what you said too about referrals, right? Referrals they're the shortest sales cycle. They're the most effective. How did things turn out for that client? By the way, they weren't going to be able to make payroll, and then you went in and helped them do some client cloning. Tell us, maybe this is a great success story to share.
Well, for the Holy Spirit, it is, because what happened is this is our first call, and then 3 days after this call, unrelated to what I taught them, they had this company had done about $2 million the year before, and their goal is $3 million this year. They had $6 million enter their pipeline of different opportunities, like calls just coming in.
Really?
So that's a case study for, like, hey, just pray more often,
right,
and see what happens. Maybe a little prosperity gospel action there for you, but certainly praying is another good go-to-market strategy. But long story short, this client all of a sudden had more work than they could possibly handle. So we actually, for that particular example, we kept having to switch from, like, hey, let's just build a sustainable growth strategy, to hey, let's make money. I need to make money really fast. And then it went from, like, hey, we don't have the capacity to take on all this business. Like, it's kind of like a Peter casting his nets on the other side sort of deal, and not having enough room in the boat. And so now we're consulting them with the help of my business partner David on making sure they have the capacity to fulfill on all this business that's coming in, because they literally didn't have time to do anything that I taught them in that call. So that's more of a case study and testimonial for the Holy Spirit working. But
no, that is so really good, because again, you started with one thing. So did they end up hiring you? Because you've also got a fee, right? Because one of the things that I like to talk to our clients about, we want to help so many people, but if they can't pay, you're not a charity, right? You are running a business. So what I like about the work that you do, Jimmy, is the work that you do leads to revenue generation, which then leads to you being able to get paid. So then the people can afford to have you on. So you started out, you gave them some tips on lead generation, but they got so much business they couldn't keep up with it. So then you moved into your second area of expertise, is how do you systematize so you can scale, right? And so it sounds like that's what happened with this client.
Yeah, and this is why it's fortunate, because I am pretty much a gas pedal. It's kind of wild. It's like, it's just go. More is always the answer, kind of thing. And David, who's my partner on this, is more of a operations strategy guy. And I don't really call anyone AI experts nowadays, because it's evolving and new and all that stuff. But he's on the cutting edge of everything AI. And so one of the fun things we're doing now for our clients is not just like helping remove bottlenecks to growth, which David is very good at. We're actually building little AI agents to go inside their business. If, let's say a process is A to Z, maybe we're automating steps, G to M or something, and all of a sudden it opens up their capacity that much more. And because a big thing for this particular client is to go from $2 to $6+ million this year. They need to have the capacity to do that, and currently they just don't, based on how they're treating their schedule and how they're. We found out that there's just a lot of things that the founders of the company were doing that they cannot continue to do if they want to get to where they're trying to go. And so, David is working on building AI agents. And here's kind of the more broad mission of Ex Cathedra is right now it is very much more enterprise, you could say, where we're taking companies and one by one consulting them, finding out what their problems are, where the biggest room for opportunity for growth in their company, how could AI be implemented into the organization in a way that's done the right way, and maybe as a differentiator for them. And then we're building out these solutions on the enterprise level, but the eventual goal is to build out a bunch of AI agents that we can offer as an included thing inside of a community. And the people in this community are going to be Catholic builders, like business owners and things, people like you and me, but then also Catholic employees. There's going to be attrition and a transition of AI taking over people's jobs and things, and we do know that the people that know how to give AI instructions are going to be the ones that are able to maintain their business or maintain their jobs or elevate their role in society. And you can use technology as a culture example and how that has shifted society with very liberal values by having an industry that is so consumed by liberalism. If we're able to take Catholic values and make sure that the people that survive this attrition, this big transition, are people with Catholic values, we think that's going to do really good things for society. And so we want to equip them with the education and the tools that they need to make it. And also think about how cool it's going to be when you see secular companies taking this very defensive strategy. They're retreating is one way you could look at it. Where because they don't value human dignity, their first move, as soon as it looks like it's not profitable, is just to lay thousands of people off. Mm-hmm. Well, what if we're able to make it to where Catholic-owned organizations are playing offense when everyone else is about to start playing defense? And we'd love to be the ones that equip people with these things. And so what's kind of interesting within the company is it started off with me just offering go-to-market lead gen strategies for companies. On the website, it said the authority in Catholic growth. And then we added a plus sign to that with David coming on board to growth plus AI enablement. Mm-hmm. But I think what the future will look like is more likely that I'm applying my growth methodologies more to help Ex Cathedra grow and reach more people. But the thing that people are signing up for is AI enablement, I think, is what's most likely to be the case. And which I'm much less of the expert in that category. And that's where David, who's now more of a fulfillment guy, is going to probably be more of the face, I think, potentially. Yeah. So anyways, I'm down for whatever. But I think that's what the future looks like for the company.
Well, I love the partnership there, because either way, I love the way you describe him. He built a software for $100 million company. Now he gives Catholic teams an unfair advantage. So we want to help teams. I like the idea of as those secular companies are playing defense and trying to figure out, okay, what do we do? We're going to lay off a bunch of people because that's the only way we can make our numbers. How can we play offense? Because here's what I believe, Jimmy, and you tell me. And I heard this at an AI talk. It's been now a year and a half ago, that it's AI makes more of an impact. And this was a year and a half ago, so you can imagine there's a lot of growth that's happened. He predicted that AI is going to take a lot of jobs, but the more jobs that are taken by AI, the more important the human interaction becomes, because we're interacting with less and less people, and people want to connect with people who believe what they believe. And there's no doubt when we look at Ex Cathedra that what it is that you guys believe. You're here to help Catholic companies grow. Here to help Catholic companies 10x. You're here to help them take advantage of the tools that are out there. Let's have a fun question. Of the Catholic AIs that are out there, I think there's Magisterium AI, Truthly. Is there a business related one that you recommend? Or what would he? I know I've enjoyed using Magisterium AI just to get thoughts and prayers, and even able to put in, hey, here's my goals, here's what I want to pray for, help me. And it's like, here's a great prayer you can do, and it gives you that. But is there something you guys have run into that you're recommending for people? The other one that, is it Manus? That does a lot of work for you. You can actually tell it, and it'll create your presentations. What's new? I know I'm just a neophyte in this space. What are you guys seeing that's really good?
Yeah, well, I mean, on the personal side of things, by the way, Jacob Ciccarelli is a very close personal friend of mine who owns Truthly, and Matt, who runs Magisterium, is a good guy who I've met as well, and I hope to be more friends with him in the future. And I'm less familiar with Manus, but like a couple of, just to give you an idea of how close. Like, so on the weekends, I texted Jacob last night. I said, hey, something Lucius is doing now is every time we go to a playground, he says, where's the Ciccarellis? And he does this in a very cute, like 3-year-old voice. It's adorable. So we're very, very close to that family, live in the same area and everything.
Excellent.
So one way, actually, this is not like super advanced. So again, sorry for the simple response, but like one thing I did with Truthly for a little bit within Arimathea is I did this like 30-day sprint of like it was after Charlie Kirk passed away, and I think it was about people that were martyrs. And I asked Truthfully every single day, they give me an example of someone who is a martyr, and help me share their story. And so I basically did this thing like, hey, give me a saint every day. People from the Bible, people from not in the Bible, and then I went to, I think, Gemini to create an image of the individual and shared the story of and did a custom prayer of, like, I had Truthfully help me create a custom prayer of how we can leverage Saint fill in the blank and leverage their spirit and how they responded to adversity and to help us be more like them during these times where Christians are kind of feeling maybe a little bit under attack or something. And so you can basically take that, but do your own version of that, maybe within your own business too, of giving AI prompts and things to help you create content. A lot of people are just really bad at that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll do that pretty regularly. So these tools, though, they're not really like agentic tools. They're not like app builders by any means. I mean, that thing I just referenced earlier today in the show was the reverse calculator, to reverse engineer your the amount of actions you need to take in order to hit your revenue targets. I built that on Lovable, and it took me, I had an extra 11 minutes between wrapping up a call and when another call was starting. I had this idea in my head, and so I literally just chatted it into Lovable, told it to use the same brand guidelines that we have at Ex Cathedra, and then it was done. I said, I just told it to use the best practices or the industry averages for LinkedIn outreach, for cold email outreach, door knocking, phone calls, whatever else. And lo and behold, like, we have this little widget now that I think companies should use it at every single annual planning meeting or quarterly planning meeting when they're mapping out what they want their revenue targets to be, and they're trying to figure out what the number of actions are needed to do in order to hit their targets. they should reference that every single time. I know I am going to. And so um, I was making the point a couple weeks ago that things that were once softwares that people would sign up for have been
Right.
reduced to lead magnets. Now they're just things that you give away. And then what people actually pay you for, to your point, is that human element. It's like, and we're keeping this in mind as we're developing tools, is like, hey, does this tool, is it going to require some ongoing support? Because if so, we actually don't want to build it. We're trying to build a bunch of things that are kind of like self-sustaining. If something requires like human support, that is something that we'll need to continue, at least for now, right?
Right.
If something has a network effect to it, that's something you can't just create this afternoon.
Right.
That takes a lot of time. And actually, Jacob was making the point that the future of business, like the thing that remains, is distribution. So this morning, and literally every sentence, as I'm like every single minute, we have a new lead coming in from this thing we did this morning, this ad that we ran for Arimathea. We've had almost 400 submissions in like before lunchtime of people signing up to be in our email list. That is a huge deal because when it's all said and done, all you have is a network of people that know, like, and trust you to solve certain types of problems for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can keep bringing solutions to them, you survive. I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that if you can build a network of people that know, like, and trust you, and there's enough people inside of there, then you can pretty much survive anything. But if you don't have that, if you don't have that community, essentially is what I'm saying, then it's very hard to make it.
Yeah. I love the idea of building a community of people that know, like, and trust you, So Jimmy, you're probably as old or probably younger than I've been in business. I graduated college in 1992, joined the military, did 11 years in the military, and then spent a long time in corporate sales, medical and pharmaceutical industry. But I remember in my first pharmaceutical sales job after I got out of the military, I had a physician say exactly that. You know what, Dan? You know how you're going to be successful? He was a really nice guy. He calls me in his office. Here's what I need you to do. He goes, I need to know you. I need to like you, and I need to trust you. Before you tell me all about your wonder drug that you're selling me, I got to get to know you a little bit. So take some time to get to know people. Make sure, he's like, be presentable so that people will like you. Don't, you're dressed very nice, dressed nicely. So people want to spend time with you. They see you in the waiting room. They're like, oh, I want to talk to that guy. He looks nice. And people have to trust you. And you build trust through relationships. So this was way back in 1995, where I got that advice. But it's still true today. So sometimes the ancient way is the better way, right? The stuff that's been done forever. I know I wanted to spend a little bit of time, and we're getting close to the hour here. I'd love to just spend a little bit of time. There's something on your LinkedIn profile, one of your banners has you running around with a banner that says, on one side of it, it says "Eat my flesh." On the other side, it says "Drink my blood." You mentioned you have a little bit of a reversion story. Tell us what drove that specific carrying around a banner. I think you ran from parish to parish in your hometown. And how many miles did you do? What was the purpose of it? I'd love to, let people know a little bit of Jimmy Coleman personal. I know we've learned a little bit about you, but tell us about that.
Yeah. So thanks for bringing that up. About a year before that, so maybe even a couple years before that, I was reading this book called, what was it called? I don't know. I'll think of it, but it just is encouraging you to do hard things, and because when you do hard things, it makes the things that are, when you do really, really hard things, it makes the things that are really hard not as hard, is the point that it was making. And as I'm reading this book and all hyped up, and I'm like, running 5Ks at the time, I saw there was this 50-mile trail race at the Whitewater Center, which is here in the Charlotte area, in like 3 days. And I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's go for it. It's going to make my 5Ks a lot easier. and I went for it. I had this tiny little pouch I had like water inside of, and yeah, I ended up getting third place. It was a 50-mile trail race, and it was just a very cool experience. Definitely the hardest thing I've ever done physically at that point. The next hardest thing would have been like wrestling in high school. That's a very hard thing. But yeah, this is pretty tricky. And yeah, I didn't that day. If you were to ask me, I thought I'd never do an ultra marathon ever again. But the next day, I was kind of thinking about. I took some notes on things I could have done differently, and I saw that, man, if I would have done this and that differently, I could have done so much better. And I saw there was this 24-hour race that they had that spring, and ended up running that one, and I broke the record. It was like 103.5 miles that I ran on this course in 24 hours. And then I wanted to do, like, that's the tricky part. If you start getting into these things, you always want it to be harder and harder, or do something
Right.
cooler or whatever. So then I did this thing where it's 5 ultras in 5 months. And the first ultra marathon, I try to make them all somewhat unique, not like the one from before. So the first one was a relay race. It was called the Blue Ridge Relay. I actually had a van of Catholic dudes, including John Cannon, the founder of St. Ventures, and Thad was our driver. Michael Costa was in there. Some other good Catholic men, and we had 6 guys running over 200 miles in total. But I think my portion was about 45 or something like that. That was a good old time. The next one was a repeat of my first ever 50-mile race, and I ended up beating my time by over, like, I don't know. I think my first one was. My first 50-mile was 10 hours and like 15 minutes. And I think this time I got it under 9 hours. It was like 8:53. That was really cool. And then just due to poor planning and the fact that there's not like an ultra marathon in your backyard every single month.
Right.
I ended up having to squeeze the last 3 ultra marathons into the last 30 days. So I did this like last man standing kind of race. I did this solo 50K race. And then the last one, I wanted to incorporate my faith into it. And this is all being filmed. I actually got to find out where the film of all this stuff is. And I figured, if I'm gonna like, I wanted to make it about the Eucharist. That played the biggest role in my reversion back to Catholicism. And so I figured if I'm gonna like have any cause, it's gonna be centered around the Eucharist. And so, okay, I can run from Adoration Chapel to Adoration Chapel in the Charlotte area, and then it'd be cool. I saw the map. I was gonna cover a lot of ground. Like, I'm gonna be running past so many people that day that are gonna have no idea what I'm doing. That would be a shame. And I'm thinking kind of like a marketer at the same time. And so I was like, what if I had a giant flag? Okay, cool. But what's going to go on that flag? And this is the year of the Eucharistic revival. And so I thought maybe I put like the website for that conference on the flag, or I don't know. The other thing I thought of a few things, but then I just opened up the Bible, funny enough, and I saw John 6:51-56. The words were pretty clear that, Jesus said, "Eat my flesh, drink my blood." And I thought that would be a pretty hardcore thing to have on a flag. And I wanted it to be maybe something that would lead to people to a call to action. In marketing, all things have to have a call to action to it, right? So
Right.
when you turn heads, people have something to go do now, right? And so I thought, hey, maybe open up the Bible would be that thing. And also it's pretty provocative to have a flag that run across Charlotte, "Eat my flesh, drink my blood." So that's what I went with. And what ended up happening is I started in Mass that morning at St. Mark's, spent 30 minutes in adoration, picked up my flag, ran to St. Thomas Aquinas, and did their adoration for 30 minutes. Then ran to St. Vincent from there and spent 30 minutes in adoration there. Then ran to St. John, spent 30 minutes adoration there. Then ran to St. Matthew's and spent 30 minutes adoration there. And so about 2.5 hours adoration that day, a little over 50 miles. The flag was a big nuisance. The forecast for that day was wind, which you never see. Is like sunny, rain, this and that, but it was all wind. It was like the little icon was a wind icon in my map in my app on my phone. But so that was actually a pretty difficult thing. I threw up, and I thought it was going to be easy because most of my races are on the trail, which is much harder usually. I'd done 50 miles many times at that point then, but it was actually extremely difficult. And what's cool is, EWTN picked up the story, OSV, Catholic News Agency, all Catholic Vote picked it up, and all kinds of attention that we got from that. And but it is kind of neat. When I explained my reversion story, I went from like being this Christian that was only Christian when convenient, and really I would even been fine if someone would have called me Protestant, basically, and to like then running across town with a giant flag that says "Eat my flesh, drink my blood." Like that's kind of like what happened in between there is the question that people ask. And and that's why I tell my reversion story that you heard a little bit about here today. So I mean, I had a guy stop me on the road and was like, "Hey, what's this all about? Like, it's so awesome." He used to be addicted to drugs, and he just converted to Christianity. And I explained, well, hey, I'm Catholic, and we believe that Jesus is truly present in the Eucharist. And he's like, "Oh, well, I think that all the denomination stuff was made up by the devil." And I said, "Yeah, actually, I would agree with you. It's just that
Right.
Catholicism was the first non-denominational church." That's what I told him. And so, anyways, we didn't get into it. I was like 14 miles in, whatever. But and then a lot of my Protestant friends afterwards were saying, "Hey, what was that all about?" There was a lot of waves going around about it. And I was like, "Well, my opening question would be, do you know what the Eucharist is?" And 8 or 9 times out of 10, they didn't know what I was talking about. And
Right.
which goes to show that a lot of people are Protestant. They're protesting. They're not really protesting. There's just like it's just a generational thing at this point. So it's not
Sure.
intentional.
Right.
Which is also true for a lot of Catholics. Like, so either it's going to force them. Here's what it did for me. Why it played a big role in my Catholic faith is, going into, I wasn't rooting for Catholics to win the "is Jesus truly present in the Eucharist" debate at all, because I grew
Right.
up Catholic and I was like, I know you guys don't believe that sort of thing. And then when I found that it is truly what Jesus intended, 1 from the Bible, 2 from Eucharistic miracles,
Right.
and 3 from just the historical, which is actually like the strongest case, 1,500 years, like no one questioned that.
Mhm.
It forced me to be more humble in my walk with
Mhm.
the Catholic faith. And because you see that all these other churches that have good people inside of it that want to follow Jesus are ignoring the thing, or unaware of the thing that was the focal point of that very Sunday
Right.
service that they are attending for over 1,000 years, and they
Right.
don't even know what it is. So the separation from the main thing to what
Where you
they're
are today.
spending time, yeah, it's just like, wow, this is very different than how the early Christians lived. And that's what really pulled me back. And it's a very important part of my my faith. And that's why I'm passionate about the Eucharist. So I was on a Protestant podcast a couple weeks ago and cramming the Eucharist down their throats too a little bit. So yeah.
Good stuff. Man, this has been so much fun, Jimmy Coleman. We probably just need to have you back. Normally I go 30 to 45 minutes. We're an hour in, and I still have questions for you. You've done such a great job of representing what you do, representing your generation. As I mentioned, I had breakfast with my cousin, who's also a priest, and we were talking about what a great thing it is. I don't know if you're Gen Z or a millennial, but you're
I'm a millennial on the tail end of the millennials. Yeah.
tail end of the millennials. Yeah. So this whole generation is just on fire, and they're looking for the faith and structure. We're seeing stories on mainstream media talking about the churches in New York, the young people in New York coming back to the church. And it's such a great friend to see, especially when the world is there's a lot of things that we could be pessimistic about, but there's a lot of positivity going on with people coming back to the faith. The way you've incorporated faith into your work, the way you've incorporated into ex cathedra, into Arimathea, into everything that you do. Just want to wish you the best with the new baby that's coming up here very soon, and so you can have a brood of 4, and I don't know if the wagon will fit a 4th, but probably not going to be taking them to the park too soon. So maybe you'll have to invest in a bigger wagon. But what a great problem to have. Is there anything that you want to leave our listeners and viewers with before we finish up for the day?
No, I think I just want to encourage you guys to go out and hear no from more people. That's my parting note.
Love that. I always love the rejection therapy video on YouTube. I can't remember the guy, but he literally go hear no for 100 days. And what you learn, and it's exactly the stuff that you talked about, you from hearing no. And he went out and asked for crazy things, like he went to a restaurant and asked for a refill on a burger. They have soda refills. Could I get a refill for a burger? And they're like, no, we don't do that. But then he explained, well, if you did, I would come here all the time. And so the manager says, well, it's not something we do right now, but let me look at it, and just where you can go from hearing no and taking that as a learning opportunity rather than a failure. It's what can you learn from hearing no, and hear no, go out and hear no more often. I love that. Thank you for sharing your time with us, Jimmy Coleman. And I can't wait for a part 2. I can't wait to reconnect with you and talk business with you, because you shared some great gems with our audience today. And I know that people, we're going to put Jimmy's contact information in the show notes. Please get a hold of him. And we want your computer to be dinging 400 times. We want your email list to be burning up, because you've put something out that catches people's attention with Jimmy and David's help. So thank you very much, Jimmy, for being on the Lead Different podcast, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Dan.
This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.